Let's bring in Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett. He's a member of the House Oversight and Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, good morning. And your reaction to these new numbers, we report on these numbers day after day, week after week, as we have all year long, but nothing changes. And we should remind our viewers that Secretary Mayorkas and Antony Blinken were in Mexico last week. It looks like nothing was gained by those meetings.
No, ma'am. They were basically being told what to do by Mexico. I guess my reaction to this is why is there no reaction from the White House? Why is Joe Biden just completely ignoring this? There's only two reasons, ma'am. Either they want total anarchy or they want total control by putting these people in our country and then getting them to the ballots, to the ballot box, of course, to vote. I think that's what a lot of this is about. And it's because the anarchy angle is self-fulfilling right now because it's just out of control. It's the billions of dollars that this is costing this country are just ridiculous. You know, they rushed $114 billion to Ukraine to protect their border between Russia, yet they won't spend 50 cents on our border. And now you're seeing all this influx. You've had over 8 million people in the last 3 years since Joe Biden took office. Man, that's the entire population of the great state of Tennessee where I reside. So it's a complete nightmare, and it is out of control. And this White House and the Democrats in Congress refuse to do anything about it.
Yeah, well, because it might be politically not advantageous for them for 2024. Again, we are now officially in a presidential election year. Let's stay with the migrant crisis, because in California, Governor Newsom rung in the new year by offering free health care to more than 700,000 illegal migrants, those that are aged 26 to 49, despite the fact they've got a $68 billion deficit in that state. They've already been providing free health insurance to migrants under the age of 26 since 2019. Maria DeRosa, who's a Democratic state senator, says that expansion expected to cost $2.6 billion per year. The concern, as California goes, could the other states follow? Do you think that is something that could happen? And would this be an issue where the federal government might have to step in if they're willing to?
Absolutely. And what I'm afraid with the federal government is the president is so kind to the illegals that he would offer some sort of executive action to provide that at a federal level. And that would be a nightmare. What we've got to be concerned is they've magnetized this country. We have to demagnetize it. And I'm proposing legislation and moving towards some sort of tax credits for American businesses that would invest in those countries, that would provide jobs in those countries, that would in fact help our system as well. Some sort of cohesive bond between two countries, such as Guatemala, a country that's friendly to us. A lot of these countries, ma'am, have not, they don't have adult males that can even work anymore. And if you make around $6,000 a year in those countries, you'll stay. So it seems like we ought to be exporting capitalism instead of exporting drag shows and things like that, which our State Department seems so hell-bent on doing.
Mm-hmm. And correct gender pronouns is my favorite recent example.
Yep.
I want to switch gears with you, because staying in the world of politics here, disgraced FTX co-founder and CEO Sam Bankman-Fried is not going to be facing a second trial charging him with making illegal political donations using money from his collapsed empire. Most of this money went to Democrats, to be clear here. Prosecutors submitted a letter in Manhattan federal court Friday that said that much of the evidence that would be offered in a second trial was already offered in the first, and it can be considered by the court at the defendant's March 2024 sentencing. But you were critical of this decision, Congressman, and you wrote on X that politicians should have to return the stolen money because, again, stolen money that was not Sam Bankman-Fried's money to give away. And then you say we won't know how much politicians he bribed or whose campaign he has influenced, and that sigh of relief you're hearing is from the deep state. Can you comment further on this, on your comment, sir?
Yes, ma'am. That was on my X account at Tim Burchett, actually, because what had happened was when the court stepped in and said there's not going to be any more further investigation, they were closing in on campaign accounts that were created through Sam Bankman-Fried's billions of dollars that he stole and that he will not be held accountable for. And those politicians who took that money will not be held accountable either. And it's both parties. We had Republicans apparently in our former leadership that what I was told, used some of that money to go after conservative Republicans and to, and live a lavish lifestyle. And so I think that the public has a right to know when they went after conservative Republicans in primaries to elect moderates. And they were not very successful, obviously, but, we came into this year saying we're going to have about a 40-person lead, and now we're at about a 3-person lead. And so I think there are a lot of questions need to be asked and answered, and they won't be because our federal courts are obviously colluding with these politicians, or they're compromised themselves with some of this money. There's no other reason for them not to go after this guy for these accounts, and it's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. The vast majority of this money went to liberal Democrats, obviously, but it did go to some Republicans as well, and that to me is very concerning.
It's called a clawback in business, and it's a pretty common occurrence when warranted. I think this case does warrant that. Congressman Tim Burchett, thank you so much, Congressman.
Ma'am, it's been my pleasure, and I hope you have a very happy new year.
Yeah.